Last spring, just short of his high school graduation, Dennis was diagnosed with ALL.
Told me that I needed to get to the emergency room right away.
In the ER that next morning, Dennis was diagnosed with acute lymphoblastic leukemia. He began treatment immediately, but a chemotherapy mix-up nearly killed him. Doctors told his family to prepare for his death.
In the beginning, I was confused because I never really understood what cancer was. When I got that diagnosis, I didn't really know the depths or the amount of time or the seriousness of the event, I guess you could say. Then they put the roadmap in front of me of the chemotherapy treatment and how that was going to be the next 3.5 years of my life. Thankfully, I had the support of my mother there that I could hand that over to her because I needed to focus on day to day. It was a challenge, more of a diploma. That was my college.
Everything was going to be fine, and it was just a time that I had to just sit back, think, and let everything be okay.
I think you're presented with the journey before you are ever able to prepare yourself. Came to the conclusion that whatever was meant to be was meant to be, and that was God's path for my life, and I was going to accept it.
Dennis overcame his sickness by taking it one day at a time.
If you look at it like, okay, 2 days, I can do 2 days, and then once those 2 days are up, you're like, wow, I did 2 days, let's do another, and then pretty soon you look back and it's been a week, and then 2 weeks, and pretty soon, you're there.
I needed to focus on day to day. I had to focus on what was happening that day and what would be happening the next so that I could prepare myself, because you only need to be prepared for what you're going to face in that frame of time. Every day in the hospital took a year. Even when I look back at it and realize it was only 2 months, it seemed like it was a year every day. Once I was out of the hospital, time began to move quickly again. I still fight just as many battles day to day as I did in the hospital. The battles are just different. The battles in the hospital were surgery and chemo. My battles today are inside myself.
When they told you you couldn't walk, that you were never going to walk again, what was your first thought?
I'm gonna walk.
The first time he realized what he was going through was at Children's Hospital.
They lifted me out of bed, took me in the wheelchair to take my first shower in like a month. And when we got in there, there was a metal plate there.
They don't really have mirrors in hospital rooms.
And just this little tiny thin metal plate, I saw myself, and it was the first time I'd seen myself completely bald and just with no muscle and all the scars and just everything.
At that point, I had lost about 45 pounds. I was down to like 120. And so that was the first time, 2 months, that whole summer, that I had seen myself. And I had seen everyone's reaction to my physical changes, but I had not seen my physical changes. And so everybody's seriousness and graveness, I didn't really understand. But when I saw myself, I realized how much I had been through.
A lot of the time, people don't know, but I just pretended to be asleep just because I didn't want to have to deal with any crying. I didn't want to have to deal with, because everything was going to be fine.
I pretended to be sleeping because I wasn't dealing with their pessimism. I was separating myself from their pessimistic point of view, that this was the end. I didn't want to hear that. They actually sent in the Reverend 3 times to say goodbye. And the 3rd time, I sent him out because I didn't want to hear the pessimist anymore. Look at every day as a challenge. Life is a fight.
Was that fight winnable for everyone?
Yeah. They just have to believe it. They can't let the reverend come in and tell them their last rites. Tell them believe.
I cherish everything so much more. Like, I mean, anything. Cold air is awesome.
I actually had no plans of telling my story. You know, I felt like it was an inner strength that we all found as a family, and I was quite content with that. Les Brown has shown me not only that it's a message that I need to get out because I can be an example of inspiration to others in their life. When others may be struggling with the same, if not worse, conditions as me. I always viewed telling my story as, simply put, a search for pity. I've never been one for pity because I believe that once you are pitied, then you fall into the pity pit. And the pity pit means that you just go deeper and deeper. I didn't tell that story because I didn't want to stop my own growth. But now I've realized that I'm stopping my own growth by not telling my story. Pity has nothing to do with it. You know, 12 years ago, I would have never believed that I'd be sitting here doing this today. Looking back 12 years, I can see all the sequential steps that brought me here today. Those steps were all ordained. My only ability in those steps was willingness to step forward and continue on. 5 years from now, I would like to be globally known as a cornerstone of support for anyone facing any kind of disease, any kind of trouble, any kind of obstacle that is greater than them. Metaphorically put it as a puzzle. At first, when you dump out the puzzle, you just know you gotta turn each piece face side up. But then you have a mess of puzzle pieces and you don't know where the heck to start at all. And so you look at that pile and it's a little overwhelming. But as you focus in on each piece, you put this piece to this piece, and this piece to this piece. And pretty soon, you realize you've got a good sized piece going on. And you just keep expanding. And with that expansion, people are helping you, people support you, they come and sit by your table and put in a piece here, put in a piece here. And that helps you with your overall picture. And as you're grasping this beautiful picture of this puzzle, you realize that every piece, whether bad or good, fits in this puzzle because it all came out of the same box. So I've come to the point where I've got this puzzle made and it's beautiful. It's one of the most beautiful paintings that I've seen. But now it needs to be shown in the world. Once the world sees this puzzle, the world will see how to put their own puzzles together and not be overwhelmed by this big pile of pieces. And in order to show this to the world, I need you. I need your support. I need your glue to glue this puzzle together so I can pick it up and show the world.